Hello, 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 and welcome to PitchZone. Today we are going to talk about sales in a slightly different way because most people think when they are thinking about sales and I ask them, what are you actually selling? The answers I get are usually partially right. But today's guest, Bruce Scheer, is an authority when it comes to narrative-based selling. And before we bring in Bruce, let me bring in Nathan Gold, my co-host for the day here. Nathan, how are you?
Hello. Fantastic. Looking forward to this session a lot, actually. Normally I do anyway, though.
I do as well. I'm not sure if you had a chance, Nathan, to take a look at Bruce's website, and there is a video on it that is absolutely, it floored me. Have you seen it?
I have not. I only did a quick search on him, but I didn't look at his website.
All right. Well, in that case, let me show it to you and let me show it to our audience here. It's just a short little part of that 3-minute video.
When thinking about go-to-market strategies, I always start by asking my clients this simple question. At the end of the day, what are you selling? A solution, a problem, or an outcome? The truth is, it's a trick question. You're really selling all three, but it's the order in which you're selling them that's so important. And very few get this right. So what comes first? Usually clients tell me it's the outcome. And in marketing, that's selling aspiration. But after years of building successful go-to-market messaging strategies, here's what I've learned. A solid messaging strategy starts with the customer's big problem. You want your sellers and marketers to be super clear on what's the big customer problem you're solving and what that problem is truly costing your customers in time, money, and morale. Only then can you start sharing what's possible when the problem goes away. And by doing this, you're anchoring your customers in an outcome connected to what they care about the most.
Absolutely amazing, isn't it?
Very nice. Very nice. That's a beautiful place. We'll have to ask him where that was filmed.
Exactly. It's such a beautiful place. And well, let's bring in the man of the hour, Bruce Scheer. Bruce, welcome to PitchZone. How are you?
Yeah, hello. Hey, doing great. Nice to be here with you.
It's a real great pleasure. Bruce, you are the author of Inspire Your Buyers. It's more than just a book. It really is a guide for anybody who is customer facing, not just salespeople. I read the book. I read it in one sitting. It was fascinating. And I really thought, okay, here is somebody who, well, on one side I thought, he gets it. On the other side, I thought he's thinking exactly like I do. So probably that's the reason why I thought you get it, right? So we are going to have a lot of fun here. But before we do, let me very quickly say hello to our viewers online. We have joining us Anthony Nassar from San Francisco. Anthony, as always, it's a real pleasure having you here. We have Yash from India. Yash, thanks for coming back again. Nadia, we had the pleasure of being on a podcast yesterday together. Nadia, real pleasure seeing you here. And of course, Massimo Peroncelli from Thailand. I hope all is well on your side of the planet. Now, Bruce wrote this book, Inspire Your Buyers. And again, it's a book that I believe everybody who is customer facing should read. And so we decided to give away one copy of his book. Later in the program, we will be drawing a lucky winner. And the way that we are doing it is I'm gonna take all of the names that I see in the comments during the show, put them onto our wheel of names, and then draw it from there. So engage with the program, say hello, ask questions. And we have Obuda here from Nigeria. Obuda, really nice to see you. And with that, let's get started. Bruce, you've been doing this for quite a while. Your customers include heavyweights like AT&T, Google, Microsoft, Dell, DXC, whoever you have out there that has a big name is on your client list. How did you get started with this?
Oh boy, great question. I've been doing it for years and years. I absolutely love what I do. I do it with a small army where we work with organizations to get their sales story straight, typically working with business leaders and taking that out to the sales organization, the marketers, and helping everyone have a better time selling and driving sales and revenue growth for the business. So, funny enough, I started working on this, Claudio, out in Asia, where you're based. I was out in Singapore for 10 years in the 90s and got started with this practice out there and just continued to refine what I do and do that for large organizations and what I call scale ups, organizations that are, seeking IPOs. We come in and really help get their story sitting straight.
So in the video, you already mentioned very, very briefly that what you are selling, you are asking your clients, what are you selling? And the answers are different ones, and all of them are partially correct, but it's about the sequencing. Tell us a little bit more about that.
Yeah, I typically ask people, hey, what are we selling at the end of the day? Are we selling a problem, a solution, or an outcome? And I get various responses when I'm talking to people in terms of what we are selling. And that makes it very interesting for me. Typically, more junior people are telling me, when I ask that question, well, I'm selling a solution. And I show up and I talk about the solution. And then other people that might be a little bit more senior, they'll typically talk about an outcome. I'm looking for a benefit that's going to resonate with that buyer. And typically some of the more senior B2B enterprise level sellers that have been around the block and have been quite successful, they will intuit, Bruce, typically I'm selling a problem. And I'd say probably 1 out of 10 people I ask would say they're selling a problem. And then I let everybody know, hey, it's a trick question. You're actually selling all three. And then I prompt them and ask them, hey, in what order are you selling them? What comes first, second, and third? And then I kind of watch them squirm and think and try to figure that out. And then finally they arrive with this order that they find most important to them. You sell the problem first and really anchor there, and then you move on to sell the outcome. What happens when that problem goes away, and then what does life look like on the beach, Claudio? Just to anchor where you're based, where you're drinking your pina coladas and life is good. And then you get into the how do we get there? Then you start to drill into, hey, what are we selling from a solution standpoint? So problem, outcome, solution. Mm-hmm. And I hit on this. My clients pay me to learn, I often say, Claudio. And I had an argument with one of my clients. He really wanted to put some solution content on his banner as part of a trade show. And I said, hey, nobody knows you. Nobody's going to come over and look at your stuff. We need to lead with the problem. And we had this big debate, and that literally helped me shape this model. And then once I did, everybody goes, duh, of course it's supposed to be that way. But a lot of people didn't see it. And I can explain more about that model. That really is the heart of the book.
Wow. This is absolutely fascinating. And I see Nathan has, I think, some issues with sound right now. So let's just continue without Nathan audio here. Patrick is joining us from Mexico. Today we really have the whole planet here. We have Solution Synergy from Nigeria. Unbelievably cool. So yeah, solution selling. This is something that I have grown up with. And since Patrick just joined us here as well, Patrick and I, we go back decades. And we used to work for NCR, which then later on became AT&T. And of course, solution selling was pretty much, our mode of operation. How do you get companies, and a lot of our audience here are founders. They are earlier stage, in an earlier stage than your IBM, Microsoft, and so on. How do you get these early stage founders to embrace that they're actually selling solutions to problems, and how do you distill meaning behind that, Bruce? What are your best questions to ask, and how do you get them to shift their mind? Because it's all a mindset issue at the end of the day, isn't it?
It really is. Yeah, that's such a astute insight there. During the pandemic, I was working with a founder CEO of an organization, and he kept coming to me wanting to talk about the solution. And it was kind of funny. He and a buddy went up to the Lake Tahoe area, and even were on a trail, and they grabbed a stick in order to craft a solution diagram. And they took a photo of it and sent it to me, thinking that I'd get excited about that solution. And at that point in time, I just said to him, hey, you got to stop. This is too much. I need you to fall in love with the problem. I need you to be, until you can explain to me what's the problem you're solving in 1, 2, 3, or no more than 4 words, I don't want to talk about anything to do with the solution. Problem first. Let's anchor on that first. And it was really hard to bump him off of that solution thinking to try to join me in figuring out how do we frame the problem in a way that's going to be compelling. And I use another word, Claudio, catalyzing, where we truly inspire that buyer. The name of my firm. We inspire that buyer and change. They want, we do such a good job on that problem that they're willing to change.
Mm-hmm.
So Bruce, you just brought up something that's really, really important, and that is how people frame their problem. But you said something about 3 to 4 words to describe that problem.
Yeah.
That sounds like a very challenging exercise. So how do you get people to actually boil it down to 3 to 4 to 5 words? Because I'd love to hear your strategies on that one.
Isn't that fun, Nathan? It's just a limit. And I believe in naming things, so if we can name it, then we can talk about it and we can expand that out. I know you guys are both communication pros, but I want to name, and I call it the big problem, because if we name the big problem, then we can talk about all the different challenges and issues and costs underneath that name. But we need to name it first. And that sets the name, and that sets the theme for what we're talking about. And when relevant, I can give examples like this that come from the book or not the book, but how do you do that? But it really is a limit, 1, 2, 3, or no more than 4 words. It used to be 1, 2, or 3 words until Trump, President Trump co-opted, Make America Great Again. And that was 4 words, and that's probably one of the best, naming issues, how to name a problem that I've ever seen. Very powerful, and mobilized an army, of course. But and so that broke my model. But the model does work, and it sharpens the perspective and thinking when people have to frame it that way.
There we go. Trump breaking yet another model. Okay. Blame him. But it is the power of words. It really, really is, right?
Yeah. So it's important to set those themes across every dimension, not just the problem, but the outcome and the solution. If you can name those things, it'll help get your narrative in the right place where it needs to be. Because and again, you guys as communication experts, you're giving them a name to hold on to. That's what they're going to remember as they move forward. And I'm sure people forget 90% of what they learned 24 hours later. You want them to remember those names of the problem, outcome, and solution, so they can
You got it.
marinate on that and share it with others.
Yep. Yep.
Amazing.
Names are symbols. And I've learned a long, long time ago, he who controls the symbol is in control.
Wow. Oh, that's insightful.
Yeah.
Very good.
Yeah. So we have a couple of comments here. So let's dive quickly into our comments online. Patrick made the comment that he loves the notion of being paid for the learning. One of the greatest sales books of all time, The Challenger Sale, makes this a key topic. Indeed. And if you haven't read that yet, put it on your list. Nadia has a question here. The customer is the protagonist who has the problem, and your role is to identify the pain point, and you, the guide, gives them the steps in order to get to the transformation. What's your take on that? The entire, hero's journey, guide, hero, and so on. What's your take on that?
Yeah, no, I think, Nadia, that's really astute. I normally ask, my clients to think about, who is the hero in the story. And there was a lot of wisdom a while back that you make your product the hero, the solution's the hero. And that doesn't make for a very good story. And, so you start with that buyer, your target buyer, and you design the story around them. They're the hero, it's their journey. And I like how you frame that. You are the guide, but you guide them through the problem domain and you name it and you anchor that for them so they agree with you. Then you move forward in your sales narrative to, hey, what's life on the beach look like? What's that outcome state? Name that and get them excited about that. Once you have those two pieces, then you can take that buyer, the next step of that narrative, into, hey, how do we get there? How do we solve that problem and achieve that outcome? What do we need to do? And then you name the solution. I call it a big solution, not all the little features, functions, and benefits, but what are we calling this thing from a forward perspective? And then what are the next steps to get there? So Nadia, that's perfect. And also the other gentleman, Challenger Sales, one of my favorites. You'll see some parallel in this because out of all the people in the sales world, they really got it in terms of anchoring on that problem. And then the term they use, they call it emotional drowning. How do you to kind of take that customer in there and really make sure they feel that? Because if you don't, typically you're not selling anything. You're having lots of selling conversations through that buying journey and nothing gets sold at the end because you didn't get that emotive anchor with them around the problem you're solving for.
Indeed. And so another comment Nadia made is in innovation, problem-focused companies outperformed the S&P 500 by 200% over a period of 10 years. Astonishing.
Oh,
not sure if
awesome.
You knew that number, but it's definitely one.
I need that, Nadia. I need that stat. That's beautiful.
Yes,
No surprise either. Yeah, it's best practice.
And then Yash, the problem matters. The solution is just a means to the end. So
yeah.
Absolutely.
Great point. Yeah, it looks like we're all on the similar wavelength. That's great.
Yeah. It seems like you're preaching to the choir here. So we can wrap up and just call it a day. Let's bring out my wheel of names, draw that book, and go home.
No. Hang on a second. I have another question for. Oh, sorry, Bruce. Go ahead.
Oh, I do typically say, and I borrow this phrase from a friend of mine: deceptively simple, mastered by few. What we're talking about. Yeah, because I rarely see this out in the wilds where people follow that narrative structure and that flow. People just gravitate back towards, hey, let me tell you about us and let me tell you about this solution. And, they get very me-centric very, very quickly.
So Nadia is in the healthcare health field. And here is her 4 words for nano-nares. Making drug development efficient. When you hear this, Bruce, what are your thoughts? Making drug development efficient.
Yeah, no, that's typically where I'll take something like that in my consultative mind is who's the target buyer, who's the hero in that story, and then I would challenge Nadia, what's the problem you're solving for them, in one, two, three, or no more than 4 words. And then the outcome you're promising them, one, two, three, or no more than 4 words. And then what's the solution? And so what you're doing there, the way I interpret that is you're giving me a solution statement, but we're missing the problem and the outcome. Which
Nice.
could be okay, but that what you just showed me doesn't make for a great story. We need to build those other supporting pillars or points of that story: the problem, the outcome, and then the solution. And then that's all built around your target buyer.
I love it. And I can tell Nadia is probably now thinking and will come back with a revised version before the program is over. And while Nadia is thinking about that, solution synergy, it's a skill to condense a problem into 3 words. And absolutely, it is a skill. How do you get people to actually, do it in 3 words, 3 or 4 words? What's your process? And Nathan already started to drill there, and I think we'll probably spend more and more time here trying to get to the essence of how do you get to such a concise statement that resonates and is also very, very easily repeated by your entire workforce.
Would you mind sharing the screen with me? I want to share a model. I call it the North Star messaging model. And it's a 5-point model for how to get there. How do we anchor, figure out what are those names for what we're selling, the problem, the outcome, the solution. So if these are our 3 names, how do we get there? So again, following the North Star model, it starts with scanning. So on scanning, we're looking around at what are all our competitors talking about. Anybody in this domain that maybe the analyst community highlights, any competitors, what are they saying? And then we want to understand that. What's their big messages? From there, we want to develop our narrative so we stand apart from that noise or cacophony, if you would. We definitely want to show up and be different. So that's what the develop phase is all about. We brainstorm, we whiteboard, because I not only ask people to name things in words, but I also want to draw pictures of the problem state, the outcome state, and the solution state. What's that look like? Again, Claudio, what you talked about, whoever owns the symbol really owns that conversation. What are those visual symbols that we can use to anchor on those 3 points? So that's the develop phase. Then we go test with our target organizations who we think is buying the product or solution as it relates to B2B. And then who in the organization would be an ultimate decision maker. And there's a lot of wisdom and data around, hey, the average buying cycle for something complex might be 6 to 10 people in the organization, depending on the degree of change and the price, et cetera, how many people are involved in that buying committee. But who within there is what another professor calls the bully with the juice, who typically makes the decision or signs the contract. And we really want to design our narrative around them. So we're testing with them through that process. And I've been doing this for years and years, and I always learn, and then I come back to the team and go, hey, we got to refine some things. They highlighted some things that we didn't see, so we need to refine. And then finally, we launch and learn, where we take our story, we feed it to the salespeople and the partner organizations that are selling on our behalf, our marketing team. Everybody gets in alignment with that and goes to market with it. And then very often we'll make some tweaks to it, months after the launch, and make sure it just really gets honed and sharp. But that's the process to doing this and doing it right in a way that aligns everyone, gets everybody on the same bus, everybody on the same narrative. So, it's not trite. And that's why always say, hey, it's deceptively simple, mastered by few. Very few go through this process. I'll typically get branding teams going, hey, Bruce, here's our brand, follow this. And I'll typically always ask them, hey, show me the testing data. And I'll typically get, what? And I go, yeah, the testing data, where you tested it with buyers and they loved it. I want to see that, just because I'm seeing some stuff that doesn't really seem right to me. I just want to make sure it's tested, and then I can follow it just like everybody else. And then very often I say, hey, we didn't do any testing. Somebody made this for us, an agency or whatever they say. And then I go, okay, that's what I thought. Hey, let's get into this a little bit more. We really want to resonate with your target buyer.
Yeah. Powerful message here, Bruce. Buddha. So in essence, I'm solving, or the problem I'm solving should be captured with 4 words. And also to do so, I need to give the problem a big name first. Did he get that right?
Oh, yeah. And could I give an example on this, just so we're all on the same page?
Absolutely, yes.
Yeah, a buddy of mine out in Asia gave me a call, and he was seeking to sell their English language platform, a really fancy platform, AI infused, and they had all these learning experts building this automated platform for language learning. He was trying to sell that into Chinese institutions. And so I did the little trick with him too. I said, hey, what are you selling at the end of the day? And 1, 2, 3, or no more than 4 words, what are you selling? And he thought deeply and he goes, we're selling confidence. I'm not going, confidence? That sounds kind of weird. Who are you selling to? And he goes, well, the language institutions in China. And I'm like going, okay, and who signs the contract? And he's like going, well, we're the owners typically of those language institutions, and they're looking for confidence. He goes, no, but that's what you just said. And he goes, well, the students are looking for confidence. They want to learn language so they can go to America, elite institutions, have high profile international jobs. They need English to kind of move ahead. And they need confidence. I go, yeah, but they're not signing the contract, right? No, the owners. I go, well, what's their problem? What are they looking for? He goes, well, under enrollment. You wouldn't believe, Bruce, how competitive English language is in China. Everybody and their mother has a language school, and they need some sort of an edge to stand apart because they're dealing with under enrollment. It's competitive. It's a Red Sea. I go, great. Okay. So the problem there, under enrollment, that's simple. And then we move on to, hey, what's the outcome you could promise? Hey, full classes, a growing school. That sounds cool. Then we back into, how are we going to get there? A language platform. And then we can talk about all the attributes of that. It's got accelerated learning. It's got all the experts that put it together. You'll learn English faster and better than any other way you could. All that type of stuff. You can characterize that. But hopefully that example helps and framing that initial problem.
It sure does. So let's go back to the comments. Massimo has a question. Can we adapt these advices to the situations of freelancers, right? So as a freelancer, you must sell yourself to by your customer yourself.
Okay.
Can we adapt these advices to this situation as well? I mean, we are the solution, obviously, as a freelancer. How can we make them the hero of the story and apply all of these advices to this specific case?
Oh, that's a great question. I'm not a freelancer, Massimo. I've got a small team behind me, but I might be in the similar type of category where I've got to sell my own services. And very often I will frame the problem that I solve for my clients. So the overall theme is inspire your buyers. So when I'm talking to my prospect, I'll say, hey, we all want to inspire our buyers, right? That's a good thing to do. And then I'll take them through a visual story, but I'll ask them, hey, are you guilty of this? Is this similar to your situation? Yes or no, or how's your situation different? And as we look at the visual that I present, what I've got as the problem state is random acts. Where that person's sales organization, or department, depending on their size, are they having random acts of conversation, or would we say all these conversations are roughly similar in nature? They follow the same storyline, the same thread. What about your marketing team? Are they doing random acts of content? And what happens to, and then what are the costs of all this? If you do agree with me, it's random acts. What's the cost of that? Well, you got confused, uninspired buyers. Doesn't that suck? And then so I keep it all there in that problem domain. And typically emotionally, I'll say, hey, it must be tough having your job where people are kind of struggling and everybody's not having a whole lot of fun. It must be tough to be you. And then if we can anchor there and the costs of all that, then we can move forward into the outcome state. Hey, you probably want accelerated growth. We can talk about that, the 2 words, accelerated growth. That's the outcome I could promise. How do we get there then? The solution, buyer-centric messaging. Let's anchor on that. And then I'll talk about these models and some other things that they can be doing. But to follow that model, follow that flow.
Amazing. So are you going to bring up Massimo's question, or shall I go ahead?
Yeah, I think
already.
Massimo, I hope that
you
answers
did already.
your
I'm
question,
sorry.
even for a freelancer. You bet.
Okay, thank you. So, Bruce, I have a big question for you here. We're kind of getting to the end of the show, but you've mentioned a number of times visual aids, and I also really appreciate the graphics that you've been showing all of us today. And what most people don't know is where you got those graphics. Now, you don't have to tell us where you got them, but I'd like to have you tell us how a well-crafted visual can make a huge difference in any sales pitch, not just the complex ones, because I'm a big fan of Dan Rome's books on using pictures to take any complex subject out there, and drawing a picture can very often simplify the whole conversation. Can you talk about that, please?
Oh, yeah. No, I'd love to. Dan Rome, he wrote the book Back of the Napkin. Is that right? Or Nathan?
Yes, that's right. Yes.
Yeah, perfect. Yeah, he one of my clients, Microsoft, brought him in to teach some of that. Wonderful. Yeah, I really believe in that. And gosh, one of my favorite meetings of my life, I was with a gentleman named Carl Albrecht. I had brought him into Singapore as a speaker at an event I was hosting. And over lunch, he literally took a napkin and sketched out one of his models. And me and one of my other buddies, he's in the top 10 management gurus in the world right now. But we both were our jaws dropped and going, man, that guy's amazing. What a rock star. If I could only be like him. And the power of visuals in my book, I've got a lot of data points around that. I'm sure they've probably been modified a little bit over the last 2 years, but still having these visual anchors, it's how people take in information. Words matter, Claudio, you mentioned before, but the visuals also create a memory anchor for people, and the simpler the better. I talk in my book about how do you know if you've got a great story. It sizzles, and I'm bringing that into the side, just as a visual, anchor and metaphor for what sizzling is. And,
Right.
But having these little visuals, well, S stands for structure as part of sizzle. And you've got a visual that helps you understand that. It just helps in that memorability of what you're doing. And then when you draw it yourself, funny enough, and I was challenged by one of my clients, Adobe, one of the sales leaders at Adobe goes, Bruce, how in the heck, why in the heck would we ever allow our sellers to draw anything when we have the best designers and the best, design software in the world? Why would we do that? And there's a big reason for it. When that seller is drawing, the customer's kind of inquisitive, wondering, oh, what's he going to draw next, or what's she going to draw next, and where are we going with this? And very often they might even, that customer might even grab a marker if you happen to be face to face and draw too on that whiteboard. And then you're getting into a situation where you're co-constructing the problem, the outcome, and the solution, getting that buy-in. So visuals are powerful, and funny enough, the sketchier, the more powerful. I just saw some recent data on this. A Stanford professor did a study on that in terms of what's more memorable. A slide that has, typical bullet points, death by PowerPoint bullet points type of slide, or a Zen slide, and Nathan, you're a keynote speaker. I'm sure you see these slides all the time, but you have a slide with a frog hanging on for dear life, and then the speaker's talking about that's kind of a Zen slide. And then you have a third thing, a sketch. The sketch wins big time in terms of memorability. And as a seller, we all want, and a marketer, we all want to be memorable. So funny enough, the sketchier, the better. And one of my clients, Microsoft, this development team even built software to take web pages and turn them into sketches, because they found when they were doing user interface testing that when they came in with finished web pages, they got very low participation and engagement and responding to how to improve upon that. People, and people just do that. Your buyers do that. Oh, there's your slide. Looks like we're not moving anything on that. That's already hard coded and done. Versus if you show up with a sketch, that you're giving that person's mind a little play there, so they can engage with that content more. It really works. It's wonderful. And then also as a seller, what a command position. The respect for you goes way up when you're sketching and doodling.
Beautiful. Thank you.
Wow. So time is just running away from us right now. And at the beginning, we promised we are gonna give away one of Bruce's books, Inspire Your Buyers. So that moment is here now. I put all of the names that I saw in the comments onto this wheel right now. If you are on this live broadcast and you don't see your name on the wheel right now, quickly make a comment into the chat and I will add it. And if I don't see another name coming in, exactly, there is the book, Inspire Your Buyers.
You want this book. It's good.
You do. You definitely do. So we see no new names, so we'll leave it at that. We have one more name, Vinod, and that is it. Hey, Vinod. So did it add it? Yeah. So let's spin that wheel and see who is the lucky person today. And it looks like it's Solution Synergy. Solution Synergy, can you quickly in the comment acknowledge that you are still here? Because of course you need to be here in order to be eligible for this book. I give you about 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Not yes is here. All right. Synergy, Solution Synergy, please send me your details, send me your address. If we are not connected on LinkedIn, you can easily find me there and send me a DM or send me an email to claudio@sennhauser.com, and we'll get that book signed by the author out to you in no time. Nathan, we still have time for another question.
Well, I think we should have Bruce end this with a little bit of a story about why he spends time on this incredible, beautiful island that nobody's ever heard of before. Bruce, tell us about your lifestyle when you go home in this northwest island. Is it pronounced Fashion Island or Fashion Island?
Vashon with a
Vashon.
V versus
Yeah,
fashion. It sounds kind of similar.
Vashon. I
Yeah.
think it was my articulation today. Tell us about that. It's a beautiful place. I looked at the pictures before we met.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, and we even have our own troll, funny enough. But yeah, Vashon Island, quite a special place. Please come visit. There's only 10,000 people out here, and it's a 15-minute ferry ride from Seattle. So, I've got the benefits of a 4 million people metropolitan area, right across the water. But on my island, people don't lock their doors, and it's kind of a throwback in time, and it's just way too inconvenient for criminals to come out and do any mischief, and it's a wonderful place. It's really great. And then it's the Northwest, so in the summer. I travel the world, but in the summer, I argue there's no better place than the Northwest. It's in the 70s and 80 degrees, and everything's all lush and green because it was a rough winter. And it's a lovely place. The fall's beautiful, especially after living in Asia for like 10 years, where I didn't have the change of seasons like you do here. We've got 4 main seasons, and it's just all of them are special. So I love that, and I love to travel and get out of the rain. I just got back from Hawaii. You can tell by the beautiful tan here. Just got back this week, because I do love to get out of the rain in the winter. But yeah, it's just part of the deal.
Very nice. Very nice.
When we had our prep call, you told me that you said, I live in one of the most beautiful places in the world. And I thought to myself, yeah, come on, I live in Thailand, buddy. Yeah, it's like... And then I went to your website and I saw that video that I played part of it at the very, very beginning. And I was like, okay, I'm now convinced this is probably the most beautiful place in the world. And anybody who's watching us here today, go to Bruce's website, which is inspireyourbios.com. Scroll down a little bit and you will see 2 videos. Click on the one on the left and you will see the full 3 minutes, because I stopped it when Bruce was putting on the helmet and got on the bike. You want to see where he's riding that bike. And then when he gets off the bike, where he goes next. Unbelievable. I just leave it at that. Now, Bruce, we still have 2-3 minutes, so I usually want to go a little bit personal at the very, very end with a question that gives us a little bit an insight into you. And that question for you today is, what was the last time that you just laughed uncontrollably, where something happened that was so funny you couldn't hold back, a real hearty rolling on the floor laughing?
Oh boy. I would have to say I just had a good roll on the floor laugh. My friend in Hawaii, we just got back from there, but I called him up and said, hey, I got the family, I've got the kids. There's a waterfall up behind your home. Could we hike back there and go check it out? And he goes, hey, good timing, because they've closed it down to tourism because there was a little bit too much damage. The neighbors were complaining. So we can go back there, and chances are we'll probably even have it to ourselves now. And I'm like going, oh, awesome. And he goes, yeah, we'll start out behind my house and do this and take the trail over to the waterfall. I go, great. So I sell my family on it, and they get excited, and we go to my friend's home. His name's Galen. So Galen takes us, out through his backyard, and we drop straight into the jungle, and there was no trail. And he goes, yeah, I don't know what's going on. And we floundered. We, did jungle bushwhacking for about an hour until we found a trail, and then maybe another half hour until we found the waterfall. And by the time we got there, I had a very angry family, and we were very hot and sweaty, and we loved swimming at the waterfall. That really was a huge, huge reward after that huge ordeal. And my family and I, we kind of have we like to make memories. And my joke with the family is, hey, we're going to have either it's going to be a really, really bad memory or a really, really good one, but nothing mediocre around here, people. And that one, I laughed pretty hard because that constituted for them probably a very, very bad memory. But we all agreed one that they'll never forget, that we went
I
to Hawaii and we
believe
made a
that.
memory.
I believe that. And that just shows that there is humor in every situation in
Oh, I'll
life.
tell you.
There is always humor to be found, especially in sales situations as well. Bruce, thank you so much. Thank you, Nathan, for spending the time here with us. A wonderful PitchZone episode once again. And I thank all of you who joined us here live and made this an engaging session here, as well as everybody who's watching this on replay. And with that, I wish you all a wonderful morning, afternoon, evening, wherever you are in the world. And we shall see each other again next time.